Just remembering walking out the house with my little brother and sister. My little sister screaming for my mom as this white lady holds her in her arms. And she's screaming for my mom like she never screamed before. And my little brother walking as she held his hand. I couldn't cry. I had to be strong for them, as that was my role at 5, being strong for them. And seeing them cry and in the way that they did, it was different because they cried for my mom many a days, but not like that. I just never realized the effect that one moment had on me. I just never realized the effect that moment at 5 had on me. I never did until recently. God has taken me through this journey of like fully healing. And as I'm walking through this journey to become whole, He's taken me through the phases where He got to prune out every bit of trauma that I experienced. The trauma that I was aware of, and a lot of the trauma I wasn't aware of. In my mid-30s that I realized that was the most traumatic experience of my life. I went from being a 5-year-old that was fully parentified, taking care of my siblings, to now we were initially placed in one foster home, but it didn't work because I'm 5 and I'm thinking I'm their mom. And I, at 5, butting heads with the foster mom, so we were all separated. And at that time of feeling like hopeless and not being around my siblings every day, I might not see my mom every day, but I seen my brother and sister every day. I was with them every day. Being placed in a foster home by myself, not knowing where my siblings was, I came to the point where I hated Sally, and that was my foster care worker's name. I don't remember a lot of people's name, but I remember Sally. And I just really hated Sally because I felt like she broke us up. It came to a point where Sally told me, like, I'm gonna try to get y'all home together. She worked through trying to get us to home together, but that phase of being away from my mom and my siblings did something to me. And that too was another traumatic event that I didn't realize that was that traumatic, to the point where me becoming a mother, I was overprotective with my child. I did not want her to go nowhere. I did not allow people to keep her. I did not allow people to watch her. For many years, I was very, very overprotective of her due to the fact that I was pulled away from my siblings, and I just became attached to my daughter. It goes to a point where anybody who would knock on my door, I would automatically think, like, I would get afraid, like they would see why. But that was post-traumatic stress. I didn't realize I was suffering from that. We didn't see her mom for many years. My sister, she was the youngest, And she would always be so excited to try to go see my mom. Like, we would have visits to go see her, and she would always be super excited, but my mom wouldn't show. And she would suck her little fingers and she would cry, and I would console her. Again, always having to be strong. And after about 5 years of being in foster care, they were trying to put us up for adoption, but my mom did whatever she needed to do to get us back. And we went home. We went home in a matter of being home with my mom for, I'll say, and this is after years and years of 5 years of being in foster home, in foster care, her not coming to none of her visits, they send us home. And when we go home, she's still using drugs. And about a week after being home, she was in her addiction, she was high, and we went from being in foster homes where, yeah, sexual abuse was occurring in the foster homes. Sexual abuse even occurred, I remember, back to the age of 5. There was such more than just the sexual abuse, like no food, no clothes, no utilities at time, like being a young lady and not even having pads and stuff to care for myself. So when the school would ask us, hey, we got a report y'all don't have water, I would lie and say, no, we got water. Or, hey, what happened to your eye? Because I had a black eye from getting beat with a bat. I would lie and say, well, me and my brothers was playing baseball and they accidentally hit me in my eye. Because my mom had some anger issues. No matter if we ain't had food, light, gas, clothes, no matter if she was getting high, no matter if sexual abuse now is occurring with older cousins and stuff like that. I just didn't want to go back to foster care. I hated foster care so much, and I wanted to be with my mom, that I never told what was going on. One thing I will say is, through her whole demise, I learned about the Lord through my mom. I learned about Jesus, and I love church. So although she was in her addiction, what I will say is, I learned through Jesus Christ. I learned who my Lord and Savior was because of my mom. And I believe if I did not be placed back with her, although all that trauma occurred, I would have not known who my Lord and Savior was. Whenever I was 14, so after 2 years of being back with my mom, and not the most, like I said, the most traumatic years of my life, I will say that I went back into the system. I didn't have no one to take me. My siblings, my younger sister went with her dad and her other siblings from her dad, and my brother went with my grandma, and then I went back into the system. I ended up back at my initial foster mom's home. That didn't work. No, I ended up in some group home. Then I went back to my foster mom, who I was with for the 5 years. Just moved around, and then I finally ended up with Tonya. Tonya is not my biological sister. She is my younger sibling's sister. So I go home one night, coming from work. Mind you, I'm in high school. I'm working my behind off, working at Wendy's, and I come home one night, and my foster mom is smoking crack. And I know what crack smells like because my mom smoked it. And it just had me boiling inside to the point where I just like went off. Cause I'm like, I've been through all these different homes. I've been through all these different foster homes, all these different group homes. I've been with my mom, all this trauma. Then I come here, you don't take care of me, and you don't, like, rage. I just got so angry. I never stood up for myself to any of my foster moms or anything, but I stood up to her like, how you and her smoking crack? I'm busting my behind out Wendy's trying to work, and you don't even buy me nothing. At that moment, a form of rage entered me. And I went off. Tonya came. I called Tonya because me and her had a good relationship. And I called her. I said, come get me. And I was crying. I was like, just come get me. I was just so tired of just being from house to house. No one ever cared about me. No one never cared. No one never cared. She said, where you at? And I said, I'm outside walking in the rain. She said, I'm on my way to come get you. And she came and got me. And she told me when I got in her car, don't worry about nothing. Everything's gonna be okay. She said, don't worry about nothing, Jenny. Everything's gonna be okay. And she said, I promise you, everything's gonna be okay. And I wanted to go live with her. And I was with her. And after 2 months of being with her, CYF came to our house and was like, you didn't complete the foster care classes, so you're not going to be able to get paid for her to be here no more. And she said, she looked this woman in her face and said, I don't need your check. I'm a nurse. My fiance work. We'll take care of her. I don't need your check. And at that moment, I knew like she was my lifesaver. No one never housed me without getting no check. No one never told me that I would be okay and promised that I would be okay and actually made sure I was okay. I never been in a house where no one tried to sexually abuse me. This is the first home. Now I'm 16. I never lived with no one without fighting somebody off of me or having the thoughts, and my mom getting high, and the drug dealers is trying to have sex with me, my cousins is trying. It was just, I never been nowhere and no one didn't touch me. They loved me, they cared for me, they nurtured me and loved me like no one had ever loved me. Tonya and Frank separated, and I was about 18, and Tonya was like, instead of working at Wendy's, why don't you come to my job and work as a CNA? So I became certified over the summer and I started working as a CNA. And about time it was time for me to start my senior year of high school, her and Frank separated. She ended up moving into an apartment, and CYF was like, well, do you want to go to a group home? Do you want to? And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm just going to move on my own. So at that moment, Tonya and Frank separated. I was in an unhealthy relationship. I started staying with this guy. He was older than me, running between me and another female. I would go to high school every day, work as a CNA, and then like shortly after I got my own apartment. So from there on out, I just would go to school in the morning and I would work in the evening. Just not having my dad, not knowing what love, how a man's supposed to love you, not being adequately nurtured, experienced a lot of abandonment growing up, experienced a lot of rejection, experienced a lot of like a lack of attachment. I didn't have good relationships. I started dating older guys, way older than me. From high school, I was dating older guys. After high school, I would date older guys. I mean, I'm talking about like 15, 16 years older than me. Just in unhealthy relationships. And I found myself just becoming numb, and with the lack of attachment, the first time or I felt like someone did something I didn't like, I would just cut them off because I didn't have I never knew what healthy attachments was. I never knew what building healthy bonds and healthy relationships look like. I view relationships through my trauma lens, and at that time I was viewing life through my trauma lenses. I was exposed through so much trauma my whole life, so I view Genafie and dated people on how I viewed myself, and that was less than of. Like, I had a low self-esteem. People would tell me I was beautiful, say things, and say, you know, you're hardworking, you got all this ambition, you're resilient, but I didn't feel that. I feel low, and by the relationships I engaged in showed me, and I look back now, it was low. And I just look back and be thinking like, there's so many, if I didn't go through that trauma, there was so many people that I would have said hi and bye in the same sentence to. I would never even have built a relationship with them. I would have never even engaged in no relationship with them, because looking back, there was a lot of older guys I should have never even been in my presence, let alone in my intimate spaces. We all been through hurt and pain. We all have a story. We all been on this journey called life, and everybody's trauma look differently. But it comes to a point where you got to take that trauma and take the trauma lenses off and utilize that trauma to build your story and leave history and leave a legacy. I published a book to give others inspiration on, you have a story too. You have a story, and through your story and through your testimony, that legacy shall be left. And that's how I got here. And I'm walking in my purpose. I'm walking in the calling that I have received over my life by helping other people. Just graduating from Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, one of the top 10 schools in my field of study in social work. Where I came from, you don't get into Pitt, but I did, and I graduated. And now I own my own private practice as a therapist, helping other people heal, helping other people walk in their calling, helping other people to take off their trauma lenses. There's pain that I had to feel that I didn't want to feel. There's memories that I had to process that I didn't want to process. But in order to get to the place I am, to become whole, I had to feel certain emotions, and just to encourage others, feel those tough emotions. You know, be strong, be strong, be strong. I was strong at 5. I became resilient at 5. I was put in that position at 5. But through my healing process, I had to become weak to be built back up. I still struggle till this day, but I always realize I'm forever fighting to be better every day. Let them break you down to build you back up.